Hello everyone, my name is Gaurav Raj. Welcome to this webinar on tips and tricks for the intelligent upgrade to Business Central. May I ask somebody to confirm if the voice is audible, the screen is visible? Okay, so some few basic housekeeping rules. I request you to keep your microphones muted over this session. You can type your questions in the conversation window and I shall take them during the end of this session. So I would like to start with a quick recap of Business Central journey and what we should look forward to. Until year 2019, the excitement had been the newest cloud ERP in the Microsoft Dynamics space, which is Business Central. And needless to say and mention, the release of Business Central Wave 2 last year has added many more reasons for migrating your NAV instance to Business Central. And let me tell you, as I'm speaking on this subject today in this webinar, Microsoft is working on preparing to provide the download page for their next major release, which is Business Central Wave 2020 Wave 1 on-premise. So that is how Microsoft is releasing the newest version, the major and the minor releases, and how frequently they are doing it. Well, the excitement has not reduced over this period, even though it has been time since Business Central was launched. But I have to say that the excitement now is about the digital transformation that your Business Central can help bringing within an organization. Migration to BC is actually considered, and I would say that it is to be considered as the initial step towards digital transformation. And it is because it opens up many doors within an organization, and those are towards the consumption of cloud applications, the services available in Microsoft Azure, the complete solution stack under D365 applications like D365 for sales, the seamless integration with Office 365 applications, the mobility, mobile apps, the AI capabilities that would bring, it will bring in along with it the Business Central, and the business benefits Business Central can deliver along with the Power Platforms, things like Power BI and Power Apps. On the next slide, I will focus on the key points which are based on my experience and the tips that can help you and everybody design an upgrade to Business Central with the most appropriate upgrade approach and a realistic strategy for the business. Well, having made your mind for upgrade to Business Central now, still there are a number of worries to tackle with. And I'm going to talk about the major ones here in the list. And the most common ones here is the first one on the list, and I believe the top one in the list is the historical data. And it is because there could be years of business data which cannot be left behind because this is so important for the business. And the transaction history, the master data, all of this is very important for the reporting in the business, the trend analysis, and the various kind of decisions this historical data can help business to take in. However, a decision historical data migration can help deciding upon the next one, which is the upgrade approach, because it is quite dependent on the data, historical data migration approach that we have taken. So, which approach should I take for the upgrade? Shall I go for a full data with all historical data, and which means that all the customizations that would have been done on NAV have to be taken forward? Or can I consider an approach wherein I can start with an opening balance only, which is with data, with just the opening balances data in masters, and with or without my customizations? Or it could be a vanilla implementations wherein we look at the customizations as a fresh. Having decided the upgrade approach, the next big question is about the customizations, which are very important here, because the question could be my current NAV instance is heavily customized. There are a lot of customizations, and it is difficult for me which one should I take to the newest version, the next version to Business Central, and which one should I leave, because business says that they need them all, and there's no easy way to identify or reduce the customizations. That is definitely an important question, and that lies at the center of your worries. Once these have been identified, the next comes is the hosting. And this question is about the hosting and the cloud adoption, where to keep the data and the database. Well, this could be easier one to resolve, because this can be decided by the IT team themselves. And the factors that would involve in the decision could be things like, what is the availability of storage, the server, the maintenance, the IT team, the disaster recovery requirements, the cost involved, and the security concerns. So these are the few ones to name. And towards the end of the session, I would also like to cover some of the technicalities and the technical aspects, which would be definitely relevant for the technical team to understand and resolve, because they work on the things technically. So having identified the problem statements, it's evident that there are no simple worries, and these are no simple worries, and there are no simple answers to these questions. Their complexity and importance can vary for each customer and organization, because each upgrade can be unique in itself. Perhaps the decision taken at this stage would define how adequately and how long would your Business Central instance and the solution address business demands and its availability in future for and with the growth in the organization. So let me start sharing my views on this. The first one I would want to talk about the challenges, of course, those are related with the master data, because this is one thing, no matter which approach you take, this is going to go to your Business Central instance, right? So we have to tackle with this. And this is a big problem. Unless you decide to take everything to the Business Central, which is the full data upgrade and full database upgrade, this one has to be resolved. And I should say that older is your NAV instance, more are the challenges with the master data. And these challenges could range from non-existing customers and vendors, duplicate customer and vendor records, items and variants and price lists which are outdated and obsolete, because for obvious reasons that these customers and vendors no more exist anywhere. So they're just sitting in the system with their historical data. The email IDs are incorrect. Possibly we never recorded them, or whatever were recorded, those are incorrect because those people are no more in the organization. Now, the problem with incorrect email IDs is that once you have migrated to Business Central, there is a very tight and very good integration available with Office 365 Outlook, through which your emails which are coming in from your prospects, from customers, those can be read by Outlook through and identified as customers and contacts in Business Central. So there is a full-fledged feature of Outlook integration available that works very well with Business Central. Now, if we have not defined the email IDs correctly in the system, we might not be able to use this feature in Business Central, right? So we have to make this data correct before we migrate to Business Central. And the other thing is that if you want to utilize this feature and the capability of BC of emailing, we need these email IDs to be correct, right? So here we are, and also we should talk about the dimensions, because these dimensions could have been defined years back, right? And the business changes, the way we work, the way our reporting is done and the analysis is done, it changes, and possibly it is too old. This could be an opportunity for business to revisit the dimensions and their dimension values, so that business can get meaningful reports out of it. Same goes for GL accounts or chart of accounts. It is possible that you have added new line of business, new segments, new products, and with all the changes in the business, there are different ways with which the GL accounts need to be defined. Most probably, you have gone global, which means that you should now adopt a global template, whereby all of your entities follow a global template, and you can use things like intercompany accounting. Another example could be obsolete production bombs, because production bombs, anyways, they need revisions no matter which version you are using, right? So let me talk about some of the tips that you can benefit from and utilize for correcting your master. And definitely we have to make this master data reliable for Business Central, because this data is going to be consumed for things like Power BI and D365 apps, could be customer engagement like that, right? So one simple way could be to identify the customers and items which have not been transacted in last 2 to 5 years. A simple way could be run the analysis reports. Even NAV, even if we talk about NAV, your current system, it provides you a feature called sales analysis reports, through which you can identify what has been the transaction, what transaction have been done for a customer, for item in last so much period. So it's like analysis by, I would say, account schedules. So take use of that, make use of that, and the ones which have not been transacted in last specific years, number of years, these are not required to be migrated. Again, it is a business call. Duplicate masters. There are chances that salespeople have created multiple accounts, customer accounts, and they have been transacted as different accounts. Same could go for vendors. Well, if you can resolve that in the current NAV instance, it's fine. If not, Business Central has a very good feature which is called merge feature, and by which you can merge two accounts, be it customer accounts or vendor accounts. And what it does is it merges its ledger as well. The transaction history gets merged. So don't worry about that. Talking about identification of GL accounts and dimensions, analysis by dimension could be helpful, because it can tell which dimensions are playing a role and are being used in my transactions in the system today. And that is where your work would start, identifying what is useful and what not. Then one problem which has been there always was that the master data which has been defined in the system, there have been quality concerns with that. Either it was not complete, or the address is incomplete, or its category is not defined, and things like that. So what we can do, if you are on versions higher than 2016, right, or once you have upgraded to Business Central for future, you can define workflows so that you can ensure the quality of master data which is entered in the system, be it customer, vendor, item, it is making sense, and it is meeting the minimum data criteria for and creating a master, right? So make use of workflows, and that is how you can ensure your future master data is reliable, and it is of quality. It is a quality data. Talking about the production bombs, in which is quite important in the production, the manufacturing industry, they run comparison reports to see what has been the bombs defined and what has been the actual consumption against any item production order, right? So that is about some of the tip on handling the master data. Let me give you an example of a dimension where and let me tell you, dimension plays a very important role for business, since they help in true data analysis and help the business to take important decisions. In one of the recent business implementation, and this is an example I'm citing in front of you, the customer was having 6 dimensions to set up, and we were able to reduce it to 3, and it was by combining and restructuring them in simple, flexible, yet meaningful way, because the original idea was to have separate dimensions to analyze their sales, one for product, another for product category, another for brand, and a third one for scheme. Now, having separate dimensions for each one of them was a challenge because users could select wrong combinations, wrong selection, which doesn't make sense, right? Because one of the brand might not be selling those category and that category of products and like that. So that is a challenge, right? That is a dirty data. Secondly, inability of making any of these dimensions or all of these dimensions as global dimension, because you can have just two global dimensions and this can be just one of them, right? So what we suggested is to make them all one, combine them into one, and use some alphanumeric codification, wherein the first three characters would define the product category, the next three as brand, and the rest two would define what kind of scheme is that, whether it's sample or it is a sellable item. So it is just an example how you can redefine your dimension data, and that ways you can make good use of your reporting capabilities and BI reporting and analysis capabilities with Business Central. Talking about and moving to historical data, and that is the next topic I want to pick up. And historical data is critical for business because, as I mentioned, it provides you useful trend analysis and comparison. However, migration of full data, full transaction data, is a huge cost. Cost in terms of the efforts involved, in terms of the storage, and in terms of the approach, because you are then left with not many upgrade options, because you have to do a complete data migration in that case, right? So that's a big problem. And second is, if you have years of data, there is a volume of data. I mean, there could be years and years of master data, which needs to be migrated, right? So there is a volume, and volume is a challenge. And let me tell you, if we are talking about the BC Online, which is the SaaS instance, as of now, there is a limit of 80 GB. So you can have 80 GB of production instance on BC Online SaaS model. So that's the known limitation. Let me talk about the tips, how you can reduce the database size and your data. So delete the posted documents, the old posted documents which are not required for audit purpose or not relevant today. You can take decision, maybe something which is older than 2 years is not required. I'm not talking about the ledger, I'm talking about the posted document, because you can still look at and consider your transactional history. Other thing is running the date compression tool, which has been available in NAV. Then for things like because as I mentioned, historical data could be important. Now, what do? We don't want to migrate the full data, but we still need that few years of historical data. Now, what can we do? There are a few options available. One simple could be that maintain a separate SQL Server instance where you can keep this historical data and tables, and you can use it. Can be used for reporting in Power BI, and because Power BI is very much capable of reporting from multiple sources, which could be could be Business Central, and other could be a separate SQL Server database. You can get comparative analysis and trend analysis very easily. Other way could be that within Business Central you can have tables, or I would say historical tables created, a set of tables, and for the identified master data. So we can say that for posted sales, for purchases, we want to keep a historical data in BC. That would not sit in your main tables. Rather, we can have historical tables created in the system, history tables, and there the migration can be done. So that is about the historical data tips for managing the historical data, right? Having said that, the next challenge comes is with the data migration, and it could be a challenge because The general way to migrate the data, if you've decided to go with the opening balance approach with all the master data migration could be a challenge. The way to migrate the data is configuration packages. That is what Microsoft also recommends. And configuration packages either use XML or I believe Excel only, right? So it would be a problem if your master data has special characters. An example could be your item master and its description, right? So it's common that the description of an item would have comma, apostrophe, and special character. That would definitely break your data in Excel. You'll not be able to migrate data. Secondly, for companies which are into e-commerce and retail businesses, these master data could be running into millions, and migrating this volume of data, master data, just the master data could be humongous, and require too much effort, manual effort. So what I can say as part of the tip is that try to consume the standard APIs which are available in Business Central, or you can have web services created in Business Central. This can be used to migrate your data. So just like we would do a third-party integration to bring in the data into Business Central, the same way we can have this solution work of data migration. So define either the standard APIs or your SOAP web services. Consume them in your current NAV instance. That is how you can benefit from this approach. And this approach would work not just on the BC on-premise instance. It can also work on the BC online, which is the SaaS model. And let me tell you, if you have been doing some data cleansing in your current NAV instance, and you have identified certain customers, vendors, and items which you don't want to migrate, this approach would be helpful. You can very easily tag those master records, or block those master records in your NAV instance, and do a selective data migration to Business Central, right? And this requires very less manual intervention, since you can start the activity and it can run for thousands and thousands of records in one go. And I can tell you, you cannot do millions of records in one go, because it will not work. It will stop at some place. That is what I can tell with experience. So this has to be done in the batch mode. The next thing I want to talk about is the customizations, and in a typical NAV-based system, which has been in use for about 5 or more years, the NAV would have been customized in so-called every dimension and direction, and this could have been done to address the immediate and the long-term business requirements. However, this would have distorted the big picture, as you can see at the bottom of this slide. Different colors. There is a code layer, there is integration, there is a customization, and this is because how NAV is designed, right? So everybody can very easily work on the code layer. You can write customization and integration anywhere. It can doing everything, right? So it distorts the big picture and the standard code solution or layer of NAV, right? And making this an upgrade costly and maybe difficult to maintain. So what I would suggest is that, and you can see what kind of different customizations could be in a system. These could be custom validations, some of the custom modules, functionalities, process enhancements. Those would have been done over the years. Custom reports, definitely there would be a lot. In any NAV system which has been in use for 5 years or more, custom integrations would have been built, be it with your dealer, for third-party portals and like that, and vertical add-on solutions. So how do we handle that? Now, here the tip for handling the customization is mapping those with things like standard tools and features which are available in BC. Things like validations, for example, on those you would have built on sales order or master at different stage, or maybe at the time of posting the sales order, convert them into workflow events. It would be helpful. This workflow feature is quite strong and can be used in various ways. And it is not just approvals on documents. The next one is considering the standard BC features like item attributes, the feature of cancel and correcting an invoice. That is a very good feature available on the posted documents. Things like bulk posting of sales orders and sales invoices. You can select the orders, so it can reduce your work. Possibly you would have done some kind of automation or customization to do bulk posting, right? And a feature like employee ledger, this could be helpful in maintaining the employee accounts for reimbursements, for payroll, and like that. The other option is evaluating the apps, and I should say that ISV add-on solutions or applications. Those are available on AppSource Marketplace, and that is for the reason because these are certified and they are verified by Microsoft for the best practices followed in terms of technicalities, and because these are add-on solutions and already being used at multiple places, these are based on industry best practices. And over the time, you will get you'll keep getting the upgraded and I would say updated versions for these apps. And in the upcoming version of 2020, which is wave 1 and is about to release, Microsoft is adding more features there. So whenever there is an updated version of any such app available on AppSource Marketplace, the customers will get a notification or some kind of notification in Business Central saying that there is a new version or updated version of app available on Marketplace. So looking at the picture that would be for Business Central, separate or clearly defined layers for BC standard system. For custom extensions, there would be separate from a BC core layer. Similarly, there would be ISV add-ons and integration apps and connectors. Talking about integrations, Business Central provides features for standard APIs and OData services. These can be used to replace your custom integrations, right? And you can start using standard APIs over the place. So doing away with your custom integrations is possible now. And evaluate the other option available is evaluate the integrations with the connector apps. So on the AppSource Marketplace, there are multiple connector apps available. For example, for shipping, or I would say customization done for shipping through FedEx, there are shipping apps available. So you can use them. Similarly, there are apps available for connector with e-commerce portal like Shopify, Magento, and similarly for CRM application. And, there are multiple CRM applications. Those are being used by different customers in the industry, and now they are standard apps available on AppSource Marketplace for Business Central. So that is how you can do away with customization and rather move to an app-based solution. For the reporting things, you can use standard Excel reports which are available with Business Central. You can create your page views with option of open in Excel, and that is how you can create your own reports with us. And for the custom reports, could be your MIS and reporting for management, month-end and quarter-end reports. The good thing would be to use and consume Power BI, because Power BI is very, very powerful. Its capabilities are not just reports that BC could provide. It is much more, and management can utilize Power BI reports on different platforms. So before I move forward, I would check if the audio is okay and the screen share is running okay. If somebody can confirm.
Gaurav, everything is good.
All right, thank you. Thanks for the confirmation. Now moving to the next thing, which is the hosting. And This actually depends upon what kind of options do we have, what is our current version, and what are the options BC is providing, right? So let me tell you, there are at least 3 options with BC, which is a BC on-premise, BC hybrid, and an online SaaS model. And what I would recommend is, no matter what kind of strategy you have chosen for full data or with opening balances, with customization, without customization, vanilla implementation, the first step could be moving to a BC on-premise with hybrid, and that way you can ensure that all of your data, all of your customizations, everything has been converted to extensions. The system is running fine, it has been tested, and as in the next step, you can migrate your system to BC online. Though I can tell you, as of now, there is a limit of 80 GB per production instance that still prevails, and that is the limit which Microsoft has put on the BC online instance. So here's my tip and the recommendation for hosting. And let me tell you, this is not hosting on-premise is not just, does not mean it has to be in your premises and in your environment. It could be Azure hosting as well, and Azure provides you multiple ways. It could be Azure VM, it could be Azure with Azure SQL and like that. And one feature, though it might be not be related to this, but even for BC online instances, Microsoft has now enabled the feature to take the backups, and you can take the backups which are actually Azure SQL backups, and you can restore on a Azure environment, Azure SQL environment. So that feature is also available, and which could be useful once you have migrated to BC online for your disaster recovery, and for requirements where the company say that my data would be with me. So this feature of extracting the data from BC as a SQL backup is available now. So with every release, major or minor, Microsoft is adding more and more features for their customers and for their users. And let me tell you that you should not miss this opportunity, where Microsoft is still providing free migration of your current license to Business Central on-premise version, wherein you get a 1:3 license, and there is some conditions like upgrade of the dates, but depends what kind of license you have, and you could gain from this opportunity for free. That was about the cloud adoption. Moving to some of the technicalities, as I mentioned, I would be covering some of the tips and the challenges around that, and this is purely for the technical people. While as we know in NAV, there were a lot of things which were available. We could do even modifying the standard tables, adding the fields, changing the data type, adding option fields, even increasing the length, for example, for the description, right, of item and customer and like that across the database. Well, if you have done those are the problems. Those are problem in upgrade. You would not be able to take that to Business Central, and there are ways to handle it. And that way would be for any changes in the standard fields, you have to create a new field in the table and handle those fields during the data upgrade process. And the data would remain in those new fields in the table. Those are basically the extension tables, and you have to change the references to the new field. Maybe the technical people on the webinar today already know that, but this is what you have to do. So be prepared for it. But this also means for customers who are having customizations today on the standard tables and fields, and where the standard fields, the data types have been changed or the length has been increased, it is going to create problems, and and the data would have to be moved to new fields. It would be a challenging thing to handle. For any custom reports and pages, I would recommend that technically speaking, their application area and usage category should be defined as properties in the properties. Otherwise, they will not be available for in the search option, which is available in Business Central. Another one for instances where the NAV companies have special characters, you will get error and problems while upgrading to Business Central. The solution and the tip here is that remove that special character from the name, rename the company before you start the upgrade to Business Central. You can do the upgrade, complete the task, and after that you can rename it back. Things like all of these special characters which are shown in the slide here, those are not acceptable. You can bring them back after the migration has been done. Then,
sorry, Gaurav, can we ask questions if we have anything?
Just for a few more minutes, I will towards the end of this session.
Okay, sorry.
Few more slides, yeah. And then handling the .NET classes, basically, which would have been used for third-party integration in your NAV instance. You have to define the AL assembly probing path and create references to these .NET objects in the extensions. That is how you can handle the .NET class, though it might not be so easy as I said, but there is a solution to it. And then using enum instead of option member. That is the other one I want to share. These are only a few of the technicalities, the challenges the technicals would have experienced during the upgrade to Business Central. So that was for the technical people. And before I open the forum for questions, a few lines about Alletec. We have been into the business from last 19 plus years. Our primary focus has been Microsoft suite of products, the Dynamics. We have been gold partner for Dynamics NAV, BC, and customer engagement products. We have customers across the globe, and we are associated with 600 plus engagements. Then multiple implementations, upgrades across the globe, multiple customers, and we have been also providing 24/7 managed support desk for the support services and on NAV and BC. We also undertake fresh implementation of Business Central and upgrading to Business Central, and we have extensive experience working on this worldwide. Some of the offering here for you for upgrading to BC, and that was about our upgrade program. And now I come towards the end of my webinar, and maybe I can invite questions now. All right, thank you very much, and thanks for attending the session. Thank you. Bye-bye.